Port Charles has seen plenty of shocking twists, but what's coming next might top them all. Get ready, GH fans, because Sasha Gilmore's journey is about to take a tragic, fiery, yet fiercely courageous turn, and it will forever alter the lives of those who love her and those who tried to destroy her. This is the story of a woman who refused to burn, a little girl who needed saving, and two unlikely heroes who risked everything to change fate itself. Buckle up, it's going to be a wild, emotional ride. It began on a humid summer night when the alarm at Pier 55 rang out across the docks. Flames engulfed a deserted warehouse that everyone believed to be empty. But it wasn't empty. Inside, trapped and disoriented, was Sasha Gilmore, a woman whose resilience had been tested more than once, but never like this. Few knew why Sasha was there that night. Some whispered that she had uncovered proof that could expose Sidwell's plot against Sunny. Others said she was lured there by a mysterious text, a promise to reunite her with someone she thought she'd lost forever. And then there were the rumors, darker still, that Sasha had known exactly what she was walking into because she had nothing left to lose. At the same moment that smoke curled into the Port Charles sky, two figures arrived at the warehouse gates, Holly Sutton and Robert Scorpio. Robert had gotten word of Sidwell's next move from an old WSB contact. The message was chilling in its brevity. "She's going to burn tonight. Stop it if you can." Robert didn't hesitate. He called Holly, whose instincts were as sharp as ever. Together, they sped through the dark streets, sirens in the distance, the memory of countless missions between them. But this was different. This was Sasha, a young woman caught in a game of power and vengeance, and the stakes felt painfully personal. They reached the warehouse as the fire roared to life, hungry and unstoppable. Holly barely flinched. She found a side entrance, a rusted door half hidden behind crates. Robert covered her, heart pounding, knowing every second mattered. Inside, he'd slammed them like a physical blow. Holly called out Sasha's name, voice hoarse from smoke. For a terrifying moment, there was silence. Then, from behind a fallen beam, came a coughing cry. Sasha was alive, but barely. Holly and Robert worked fast, adrenaline overriding fear. Robert dragged the beam aside, muscles straining. Holly pulled Sasha to her feet, half carrying her toward the exit. Flames leapt closer. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Sasha, dizzy and gasping, tried to speak.
But there was no time.
They burst into the night just as part of the warehouse collapsed behind them, a thunderous roar of fire and splintered wood. Safe on the docks, Sasha finally found her voice. Eyes red and wild with desperation, she clutched Robert's arm. "They'll come for me again," she rasped. "And for Daisy. You have to help me disappear." Robert hesitated. Holly exchanged a look with him, a look only partners who've lived through impossible choices could share. Sasha had known the risk, but the thought of Daisy, innocent, small, and defenseless, changed everything. Sasha was right. If Sidwell realized she survived, he'd come after her again. The only way to protect Daisy was to make the world, even her friends, believe Sasha had perished in the fire. It wasn't an easy decision. Holly's voice trembled as she asked the question that would haunt them all. "Are you sure? This means leaving everyone behind." Sasha nodded, tears streaming. "My son is gone. The only family I have left is Daisy. I can't let them take her too." And so, with heavy hearts, Robert and Holly began the most dangerous part of the mission. While firefighters fought the blaze, Holly snuck back into the burning shell of the warehouse. There, she planted Sasha's bracelet, a gift from Willow, engraved with Sasha's initials. She scattered ashes and burnt cloth that matched Sasha's last known outfit. Meanwhile, Robert called in an anonymous tip, leading the authorities to believe Sasha had never escaped. As dawn broke, news spread across Port Charles. Sasha Gilmore had died in the fire. News of Sasha's death rocked the town. At the hospital, Willow collapsed in shock, haunted by their last conversation. Michael blamed himself, convinced that Sunny's war with Sidwell had cost Sasha her life. Sunny, for his part, went silent. His grief was dark and dangerous, because deep down, he knew Sidwell wouldn't stop. And if Sidwell could do this to Sasha, who would be next? Maxie wept in the Crimson offices, remembering the woman who'd fought so hard to reclaim her life after Brando's death. And in a quiet house on the edge of town, little Daisy cried for a mother she didn't know she was about to see again. While the town mourned, Holly and Robert moved quickly. They couldn't risk anyone discovering the truth. Holly arranged for Sasha to hide in an old safe house once used by the WSB, a farmhouse outside of Port Charles, surrounded by thick woods. Meanwhile, Robert made the hardest call of all, removing Daisy from the foster home where she'd been placed temporarily. He knew what it looked like kidnapping, but Daisy was in danger, and there was no other way. One night, as rain poured down, Robert quietly entered the small bedroom where Daisy slept. When she woke, she didn't scream. Perhaps, even at her young age, Daisy understood. This was the man who'd saved her mama. Robert wrapped her in a blanket, whispered promises of safety, and carried her into the storm. Hours later, Robert placed Daisy in Sasha's arms. For a long moment, time seemed to stop. Sasha sobbed into her daughter's soft hair, relief and love pouring out of her like rain. "I've got you," she whispered over and over. "Mama's got you now." Even Holly, usually unshakable, wiped away a tear. But the plan wasn't perfect. Questions would come. Why had Sasha been there that night? Why was Daisy missing from her foster home? And what if Sidwell suspected the truth? Robert and Holly spent sleepless nights planting false leads, forging documents, and erasing traces. They convinced Sonny, through anonymous messages, that Sidwell had ordered the fire, deepening Sonny's resolve to take Sidwell down. The angrier Sonny became, the less he would suspect the real twist. But Sidwell was no fool. And soon, his men would discover that Daisy had vanished, and that would change everything. Sasha and Daisy couldn't stay in the farmhouse forever. The clock was ticking. With Robert's help, Sasha obtained false papers. Her new name, Elena Price. Daisy became Emma Price, a mother and daughter starting fresh, far from the ashes of Port Charles. On a cool morning just before dawn, Holly hugged Sasha tight. "You're stronger than you know," she whispered. Robert placed a hand on Sasha's shoulder. "Stay gone, stay safe, and remember, you're not alone, even if it feels that way." With Daisy on her hip and tears in her eyes, Sasha stepped onto the train that would carry her out of Port Charles and out of her old life. The train rocked gently as miles rolled by. Sasha watched Daisy sleep, her small hand curled around her mother's. She mourned what she'd left behind. Willow, Maxie, Sonny, even Cody, who had been her unexpected protector and friend. But she had no choice. Port Charles had taken too much from her already. Somewhere in the future, maybe, she'd find a way to tell them the truth. For now, survival was enough. Sidwell raged when he discovered Daisy had disappeared. His fury was dangerous, and his next move promised even darker days for Port Charles. Sonny vowed revenge, his grief over Sasha's death fueling a new, merciless resolve. Willow lit a candle for Sasha every night, never fully accepting her friend was gone. And Maxie, haunted by dreams, whispered to the empty air, "Come back to us." And though no one knew it yet, the battle lines had been drawn. Sasha's sacrifice had changed everything, and it was only the beginning. Sasha Gilmore had lost so much. Brando, her baby boy, her peace of mind. But in the end, she chose life over despair for Daisy's sake. Thanks to Holly and Robert's bravery, she escaped Sidwell's flames and forged a new future in exile. Some say she died that night on the docks. But the truth? She survived, not as Sasha Gilmore, but as a mother named Elena Price, with a daughter named Emma. Somewhere, far from Port Charles, a woman rocks her child to sleep, whispering lullabies of hope and dreams of a day when the past will no longer burn.